I want you to alert the Discord, Richard. We back up.
All right.
No, don't waste time on
Okay.
it. I don't want to waste any more time on it. You know, Katter, the Australian politician who
Oh, yeah.
believes people are getting eaten by crocodiles every 3 weeks in North Queensland. Apparently, the whole thing is that's not true. You know, coming at that video, this is a terrible way to start the podcast. Welcome, everyone, to the Cult Popture podcast.
Well, what I'm going to be thinking about now is these crocodile murders.
No, they're not true. It was conservative Australian rhetoric from like 2010.
Right. Okay, so they've sorted out the problem now.
Well, I think the politician's still in power.
Right.
Which is the real problem. The crocodiles weren't doing anything. What a niche thing to talk about at the start of an episode. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up Let 1,000 Blossoms Bloom. I think the guy's name is Dave Katter.
Yeah.
It's an Australian politician. Anyway, it's very funny. I wouldn't be detracting from the flow so much if I didn't think this was one of the funniest videos on the internet.
Right.
And what better episode
to detract from?
Yeah, to start with like an Australian anecdote than one that is primarily focused on the Irish, a different country.
A different country, although I would say that both use green in their iconography quite a lot.
I would also say I don't think there's a single Irishman in any of the Leprechaun.
Yeah, I don't think they've ever seen an Irish person.
Has anybody in this family even seen a chicken? Yeah. Welcome along, everyone, to Film Franchise Fortnights on the Cult Popture podcast. I'm AJ, and I've been absent for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, even when you were here, I would say you were, in a sense, like absent.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's because I had my blindfold.
Yeah, you had your blindfold on.
You couldn't see my eyes.
I couldn't, and the eyes are the window to the soul, and you know
the window
was shut.
The window was shut,
but God opened a door,
which is great because doors are bigger than windows. People are like, God,
much more reasonable to get through.
Yeah, when people are like, God closes the door, but he opens a window, it's like, oh, well, great. This isn't as good as the door.
Yeah.
This is a show where we cover a different film franchise every fortnight, and the last, like, sort of glinting light, the dusk of Halloween season, we're getting one spooky episode out in time. This is the only spooky franchise, really, we've done this Spooktober. I don't count the Butterfly Effect.
I count the Butterfly Effect.
I don't think...
Imagine if that actually happened to you.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, this fortnight, the franchise that was voted on was the Leprechaun series, which is one that's kind of hung around the bike sheds after school with the other horror franchises we've done. But at the same time, I've never felt particularly compelled to add it to the repertoire. Definitely off-center the main spotlight iconic horror villain franchises we've done. You know, if there was, I don't know, Richard, some kind of list of tiers, I would put your Freddy Kruegs, your JC Vors, your Chuckies maybe, your Leatherfaces, your Mikey Myers. They're all in S tier. I'd put nothing in any of the other tiers, and then Leprechaun in like D.
Yeah. Yeah, so like you say, it's a fascinating franchise because it feels like it thinks it's iconic,
and it has 8 movies.
Yeah,
which is not that's quite a lot of sequels, you know, for a franchise that it feels like is constantly trying to be the cultural icon that it's not.
Yeah,
there must be Leprechaun fans out
every year on St. Patrick's Day. Apparently, Sci-Fi, the channel in the States, does a marathon of the films, and
they select 3 at random, call that a marathon.
No, they play all the films.
Wow, all 8.
Yeah, and the 8th was a Sci-Fi original. So, the 8 films we're talking about are Leprechaun, which came out in 1993. Leprechaun 2 a year later, and then another year later we had Leprechaun 3. Another year later, like 4 in a
Oh my
row.
god.
Leprechaun 4 in space. And then what I would say is like this franchise's sort of like cultural impact is that they had 2 films in the early 2000s called Leprechaun in the Hood and then Leprechaun Back to the Hood. And then 11 years later, in 2014, they experimented with some new takes on it with Leprechaun Origins and Leprechaun Returns.
Yeah. And Richard, we've discovered something terrible here. We've only been talking about this franchise over Messenger, and I'm devastated that we pronounce the titular character differently.
Oh, how do you pronounce it?
I don't want to put up with it. I don't want to put up with you giving me shit for my pronunciation. You're saying leprechaun. I say leprechaun.
Yeah, I think that's not that different.
Okay.
I wouldn't have called you out on it. If you'd said Leprechaun, which is what I thought you were going to start saying.
It's pronounced Leprechaun.
Yeah.
It's Gaelic. That's how they pronounced it.
What should
Leprechaun.
Leprechaun. Leprechaun.
Leprechaun.
All right. Well, now I have to do a quick how to pronounce leprechaun.
Well, we know how to pronounce it. We don't need to.
Pronunciation. Leprechaun.
Con!
Yeah, that's the American pronunciation.
Leprechaun.
It says leprechaun.
Okay. I'm fine with either.
Okay. So,
let's move on.
The first film came out, as I said, in 1993. It was directed by a guy called Mark Jones, who has done very little else of note.
Nice.
And
just to create characters based on created by Mark Jones in every single Leprechaun movie.
And it's notable for being the film debut of Jennifer Aniston, although she since refuses to acknowledge the film.
Yeah, she'd rather people think of it as Office Space being her debut, I think.
Yeah, she... Apparently Warwick Davis has, like, long said she, pretends it doesn't exist. And then... Because she shot to stardom a year later when Friends debuted. But she's said that, like, no, I'm not, like, denying its existence. I'm just embarrassed by it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is Leprechaun 1993 about, AJ?
So Jennifer Aniston is going to stay with her dad. We should say as well, this is a delayed episode. We've spent 3 weeks watching this franchise.
And boy, does it feel like it.
Which is about the limit my memory has on movies of this quality. So you'll forgive me if I'm a little rusty. Maybe you can fill in the blanks for me based off the Wikipedia page, which is surely open.
It's actually not. I just have my my very light Google Doc open.
Wow. So Jennifer Aniston's going to stay with her dad. She's like a city girl, I'm going to assume from California, though I'm not going to fact check that. And she's moved to wherever the film takes place. Let's say Milwaukee. I don't know. And she doesn't really want to be there, and her dad's kind of like this... North Dakota. Her dad's kind of like a bit of a loser. I don't know why she moved there. I can't remember. But anyway, there are some other people there. There's a hot dude that makes her want to stay when she meets him. There's sort of a large man-child named Ozzy, and a little boy who is his best friend. And these are all like construction workers that are helping rebuild this dilapidated house that Jennifer Aniston and her dad are living in. And while out in the like scrapyard one day, Ozzy and the little boy find a pot of gold where Ozzy accidentally, while testing to see if it's chocolate, accidentally swallows one of the coins whole. Anyway, it turns out this is actually this pot of gold belongs to none other than a leprechaun. The famous Irish little
guy
asshole. Yeah. And so the leprechaun comes out and he's like, in his best approximation of an Irish accent, which I would have thought would be more important to nail for a franchise called Leprechaun than clearly what the director and Warwick Davis felt.
Yeah.
He's like, I need me gold. Give me gold back. And so they're kind of like battling against this leprechaun that's trying to kill them. And then they realize that, we can't actually give him the last piece because it's inside Ozzy. So instead they trick him they like scatter a bunch of shit everywhere because leprechauns need to like clean up shit, which feels like a very easy weakness to exploit.
Yeah.
And then the little boy's like, fuck you, Lucky Charms, and they bash the leprechaun into a well where he's presumably banished for here on forward.
Yeah, what did you think of the kiss-off lines in the franchise?
I can only remember fuck you, Lucky Charms at this point.
I think Returns. I'm going to bring it up now because I will forget it otherwise. She's like, hey, I got a limerick for you. Eat a dick, asshole.
Yeah. So that can bring us to something they decided to do with Warwick Davis's character, the Leprechaun, or just Leprechaun.
He's got a name, which I was like, where is it? I had written down.
He has a name?
Lubden.
When has that come up?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I'm glad you also didn't. I think the name was originally revealed in like a prequel comic, but yeah,
is this like a Rumpelstiltskin situation? Like,
funnily enough, the film that Mike Jones went on to make after this was Rumpelstiltskin.
Well, he has a type, and he does it fairly okay, I guess.
Oh, that's being a bit nice.
Hey, don't be so nice. They make a decision with him where, like, most of the time, but not all of the time, he'll speak in rhyme, and all of these rhyme across all 8 movies. He doesn't speak in Origins, but all of these rhymes are, like, so poorly written.
They kind of work on paper.
They kind of work on paper. I think to me, the hallmark of someone who's not good at writing rhymes is how much the person delivering the rhyme has to speed up what they're saying to get to the last word. And so you know what I'm talking about. So let's workshop one right now. You could say like, in this glass, I have some water. Don't tell me son, me mum, me dad, or me daughter. Yeah, that was actually pretty good, I think, compared to what...
Yeah. In Leprechaun, because you added the mum, it would be like, in this glass I have some water, don't tell me son or me daughter. Like, that was too good as well. I think we're just too good at delivering.
We're too good at this. We're actually adding some quite satisfying rhythm to a poem because you and I are too creative to be bad at this.
Yeah.
Anyway, you see, one hallmark of it is like a sentence will be reversed. So it'd be like, in this glass I have some water instead of I have water in this glass, and it's it's designed to hit the rhyme. I think it's always bad, and every rhyme that Lubden does in this franchise is that quality. Like
they're so bad, and there's just no rhythm to them. And to me, that was the greatest sin of the films.
And what about? Did you think Davis needed to try a bit harder with the Irish accent?
It became like his signature, so I was like, eh.
Yeah, it's kind of, he's got like a very trademark voice eventually, but it takes a few movies for me to be like, all right, it doesn't need to be Irish.
Can you do the voice?
Okay, he talks like this. Oh, I need me gold.
In this glass, I've got some water. Don't tell me mum, me dad, or me daughter.
That rhyme I improvised should be a running joke through this episode because it's just better than any joke.
Well, now it can't be because you've hung a lampshade on it.
Watch out. Watch me hang a lampshade on this joke. If I were a bear, you could give me a poke. That's how bad the rhymes are in this franchise. There you go. They defeat the Leprechaun. It's a solid 3-star movie with no heart. When I watched it, I was like, hey, Richard, we've got another Critters on our hand. And for those who haven't been listening to the podcast for 7 years or however long ago it was that we did Critters, Critters is kind of our go-to franchise for one that's so full of movies and has a fan base, but is just so woefully uninteresting and fails to stay in your memory. At least for us, anyway.
Yeah, and the Mark Jones was directly inspired by Critters to make this film.
Incredible that movie could inspire anything.
I know, but he was like, hey, they have a small protagonist.
Yeah. There's another Critters movie that we just haven't watched.
Yeah.
You know, it came out years ago, and we just never caught up with it.
Yeah. What do you think has a Rotten Tomatoes, this film?
I reckon like 42%.
Too high. 27%.
Bad. Well, it's not bad. Shut up, AJ. It's not a bad movie.
It
It's
is.
just
I think it's a bad movie.
okay. It's a bad movie. We can say that. All right. We can say Leprechaun is a bad movie.
It's one of these franchises where I'm like, these are bad, but I still have favorites, and I'm still disappointed by ones that betray what I know of the franchise.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's just Stockholm syndrome that comes with watching an 8-movie franchise
Over 3 weeks as well.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, it's because we, like you said, we've been aware of this franchise for a long time, and it feels like, I mean, for a long time as well, it was Chucky was like, we need to cross Chucky off the list, and then it was like, I guess we kind of need to cross Leprechaun off the list, but like, I don't know anyone that's like seen these movies or has like an affinity for these movies.
Yeah. I can't imagine they're popular in Ireland.
Oh god, no, they're horrifically offensive. I can't imagine they're popular in the hood.
And they're definitely not popular in space.
Yeah, how much, because this was one thing that I was interested in the franchise, is that, like, you know, when we watched Fright Night, there's like a bunch of vampire lore in there that we were like, oh, this actually like that vampires can turn into wolves and mist and stuff like that. Watching this, I was like, how much of this is actually lore of a leprechaun, and like how familiar were you with the leprechaun lore?
I reckon when I was like 7, big Leprechaun phase. Like I was obsessed with it. But I don't think I researched them. I think I just liked drawing them and integrating them
and pretending to be one.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. You've been sitting on that water rhyme for
years.
Decades.
Decades, yeah.
That's why it was so refined.
I don't think I knew much else about a leprechaun beyond what they generally look like and their relationship to pots of gold.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about you?
Yeah, same sort of thing. They like gold. There's something about they can grant you wishes, which is in movie 42. They steal a leprechaun played by Gerard Butler, and they take his gold, and then they meet like a fairy who sucks cock for gold coins, and they're like, score.
You know, I think about movie 43 a lot.
Yeah,
because
43,
a lot of them, that's pretty good story structure. Like, it's horrible and sexist and gross, but it's good story structure. I think about that.
For so long, I was watching The Bear, or like when The Bear blew up as a show, I was like, where the fuck do I know that main guy from? And it's like, he's got such a distinctive look, and he was a main character in Shameless, and I was like, maybe I just have more of an awareness of Shameless than I thought I did. And then a clip of movie 43 popped up on my TikTok, and he's the daughter, my wife or my daughter, sorry, he's the son of Liev Schreiber and Naomi Watts in that movie, who homeschool their kid. And he's like, she's a pretty girl. And it makes the like fake girlfriend. And I was like, oh, that's where I know the guy from The Bear from. Yeah.
What a great distraction from talking about Leprechaun.
Yeah. Did you notice we haven't really discussed this in the past, but I especially, you know, like you're something like going to see a Marvel movie and you're waiting to the end of the credits anyway. I always love looking at the special thanks, because quite often there'll be someone who, you know, be a friend of the filmmaker, or, you know, one of the actors that like contributed to the script in some way. Like Donald Glover gets a special thanks in Black Panther, I remember, because he wrote some jokes for it and things like that. But there was a few special thanks in this film which were interesting. George Lucas gets a special thanks.
Okay, let's extrapolate that. So Warwick Davis obviously discovered by George Lucas. He played Wicket, the Ewok, in Return of the Jedi,
and he was the lead in Willow.
Yep, and would go on to. So that's not that surprising. George Lucas, maybe Warwick Davis told him about the movie at some point.
Well, it was because Warwick Davis was under contract to George Lucas and had to give Davis special permission to appear in the movie.
That's a creepy thing to have over an actor.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently Warwick Davis had been sort of going through a dry spell with acting roles, and his newborn son died 9 days after being born, and he thought, maybe this will cheer me up.
Maybe playing a horrific horror villain will cheer me up.
Yeah,
and
playing
thus
against
the
type.
Leprechaun franchise was born.
Yeah.
He is playing against type, I guess.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, he's usually like playing like sort of cute and wholesome characters, and this is like, how would you describe Leprechaun? He's a sort of on the spectrum. He's closer to Freddy Krueger than Michael Myers. You know.
Yeah, 100%. The other person who gets a special thanks is Vice President Dan Quayle.
Okay, I don't know the extrapolation for this one.
What would you guess? So he was Vice President to George H.W. Bush.
Okay, he does he feature in the film on like the news or something?
No.
Tell me.
No, his office sped up a working visa for British actor Warwick Davis.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. I wouldn't give special thanks to the vice president for something like that, I reckon.
Really?
I don't think he's going to see the movie.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, the vice president is a woman now, though, AJ. Get used to it, dude. It's 2018. It's 2018.
Guy.
Get used to it. So we were talking about the stuff about the lore of leprechauns as well. That all the stuff with the 4-leaf clover, that's like how you kill it and shit. That was just made up for the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be very surprised if leprechauns were weak to 4-leaf clovers. I feel like that's kind of their whole thing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, like I kind of like that he's trapped in a box by just putting a 4-leaf clover on top of it. Because
Have you ever found a 4-leaf clover?
Oh, years ago.
I've got a great story about 4-leaf clovers.
Oh, cool. Well, you can tell that sometime.
Thank you. Continue.
No, tell it now.
I had a sick day home from school when I was 10, and I was obsessed with finding 4-leaf clovers, probably related to my leprechaun obsession from a few years earlier. And I could never find one, and then I was homesick from school, and I was playing outside in my backyard, and I found like a patch behind the garage that had like dozens of 4-leaf clovers in it. And I think there are a couple of 5-leaf clovers as well. Yeah. And no one believed me. And so we like picked them all and like printed them, like laminated them onto bookmarks that said like good luck on them. And I think we tried selling them at a garage sale. I'm sure somewhere in my parents' house we'd be able to find them. But I just had this one day where I found like 8 4-leaf clovers.
Yeah, they're not like super rare. I'm sorry, AJ, I did get distracted in the middle of that. I have some news to break to you.
What?
Just Matthew Perry just died.
Wow.
Yeah. He apparently drowned.
What?
Yeah.
We're covering a franchise starring Jennifer Aniston, and Matthew Perry just drowned.
Yeah. Holy shit. That's crazy.
He drowned.
Holy shit. That's oh my, I'm inconsolable.
Oh my god.
Heavy stuff.
I'm trying to not be. I don't want to make any jokes. It's just like
it's surprising.
Yeah. Damn. Should we keep talking about Leprechaun, or do we need to have a moment?
Let's talk about our favorite Chandler moments from Friends.
Very unfamiliar with Friends.
Yeah, I do. No. Do you have anything else you want to say about Leprechaun, the original?
No. In fact, I'm surprised we've talked about it for this long.
Oh, yeah, good. Actually, I have a hard out at 3, so
yeah.
Let's speed this up. Leprechaun 2 came out in 1994. This time it was directed by Rodman Flender. Rodman Flender.
Yeah, Flender. I know his work well. Leprechaun 2.
Yeah. What do you think this one has on Rotten Tomatoes?
I reckon like 20.
6.
Yeah, we're plummeting. That being said, I thought this was a considerably better movie.
Yeah, I prefer it.
I think when we watched the first one, I was like, God, is this the best one in the franchise?
Yeah, when you watch a bad first film in a franchise and it's like, oh, I'm sure they're going downhill.
Yeah, but this one, and similar to how like The Purge 2 was like, this is what I thought The Purge 1 was going to be.
Yeah.
Leprechaun 2 feels like this is kind of the movie I'd envisioned when I'd thought about this franchise. The 4 times I'd thought about it before covering it in my life. Like, this one, first of all, the first, like, in fact, all of these movies could be the first one. Like, there is no continuity. There's continuity between the first and 8th movie.
Yeah.
But every other one could just happen. Because, and each of them as well sort of end on a cliffhanger. But then the Leprechaun will just show up in a different way.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of how he was dealt with at the end of the last one. So this one is about... So the main characters are like an assistant to a guy that drives a like hearse around Hollywood and shows tourists like houses where murderers lived. Then there's the hearse driver himself, whose name is Morty, and I just remembered that because of Rick and Morty.
And why it's also like Mort, like mortician.
Yeah. Mortician. Then it's the assistant guy's girlfriend is she's sort of, I felt like she was kind of the main character, at least at the start. And the Leprechaun shows up and wants to marry this woman for some reason. He wants her to be his bride. So he kidnaps her, and the guy and Morty have to try and save him. I thought this movie was better than the first one. The first one was like a begrudging 3 stars. This was like 3 stars, but a little love heart. Like, I was like, this was fun. I had fun with this one. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I think borrowing some of your parlance here, but I like that he's a gross little pervert in this film.
Yeah, he's grosser in this one, and it's just like, yeah, fuck it. Why not? Why shouldn't he talk about like wanting to assault women? Like, fine, make him as gross as he can.
Yeah, just like say what we're all thinking.
No, don't. I wasn't thinking that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Remember when Gary Oldman like defended some racist comments by being like, "Look, it's just what we're all thinking."
I don't remember this. This sounds horrific.
Yeah, and then he was like, "Well, I wasn't thinking it."
I think that the thing that sets this one apart from the others is I think it has really good kills in it. There's a Morty actually is killed because he decides that he's going to try his luck with they capture the Leprechaun in an iron safe, and he's like, "I'll let you out if you grant my wishes." And he ends up wishing for the pot of gold, and so the Leprechaun transports the pot of gold into Morty's stomach, and he basically just bursts open because there's a pot of gold in his stomach. And I thought that was pretty funny. There's another death that contained maybe my only belly laugh of the franchise as well, which was after the Leprechaun sort of like failed to run down and kill the people he's after. He gets real drunk. They get him real drunk at a bar, and he's nursing a hangover with a coffee at like an espresso bar in the middle of the night. And the guy there is like, "All right, time to go. We're closing up." And he says some limerick, and he's like, "Oh, good. We have a method actor." And I was like, "That's a great joke." And then he kills him by melting his face off on the espresso steamer, which was great. That was fun. It was fun stuff. You know, this one's more campy and fun.
Well, this is the thing. Like, this is what the franchise should be. Like,
yeah.
I think there's one film. I think it might be the 6th one, maybe, where he doesn't use any magic powers at all. But it's like, use them. Yeah, like that's your whole thing. And like creative kill, like the pot of gold in the tummy is the best kill in the there's some pretty good ones in Returns, but
yeah,
it's the best kill in the base franchise.
Yeah, the original run. Yeah.
This film in the UK doesn't even have the word leprechaun in the title.
What's it called?
It's called One Wedding and Lots of Funerals.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Why? Is there even a wedding in it?
Well, the whole thing is that he wants to get married.
Ah, right.
And,
course,
4 weddings and a funeral. fever was crazy in the UK.
Nominated for Best Picture for Weddings and a Funeral. Terrible film.
I've actually never seen it.
It's awful, dude. You'd hate it. The characters are so unlikable.
Yeah, but I do like Richard Curtis films as much as I would love to not like them.
This is
Notting Hill.
This is
great film.
Notting Hill's great. Notting Hill's got likable characters. Four Weddings and a Funeral. It's like I don't want these people to be happy.
I wish there was just all funerals.
I wish they would all die. Yeah.
Yeah. So this one is the last one to go to theaters. Before,
oh, no kidding.
The only other one that went to theaters was actually Origins.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
The worst one.
Yeah. And this is the only one that's actually set on St. Patrick's Day as well.
See, this is my problem. Why did the patrons get us to do this for Halloween? This is this is the only St. Patrick's Day franchise. And the podcast has probably landed on or near St. Patrick's Day dozens of times over the years.
Do you want me to see how many times it's happened?
How many times has St. Patrick's Day been on a Monday?
The first St. Patrick's Day after we started was... Well, actually, no, this would have been a Friday because we used to release on Fridays, but we released the very St. Patrick's themed episode, Should Joe Watch Kong Skull Island on St. Patrick's Day.
I hate talking about the early days of the podcast. You have episodes like that just in there.
Yeah.
Just episodes we would never do now, you know?
Yeah, well, we don't really talk to Joe that much anymore.
That's true.
That's a big part of it. That's a big part of why we didn't do it. And 2021,
I can't believe Kong Skull Island has its own dedicated episode.
It's pretty good. No, it has its moments. That's the only time.
Really?
Yeah, that it's fallen on it. Let's see if next year.
You and I have different philosophies with this kind of thing, though. Like, I would happily release a St. Patrick's Day episode around the closest.
Well, no, so I would too,
Day.
but you asked me the specific question.
Right.
The only way we differ in philosophies is that I won't do an April Fool's episode. Like on April 4th.
On anything less than April 1st.
Like, it's not funny otherwise. Like, I don't want to necessarily get too into the weeds here, but like, and actually next year, April 1st is on a Monday, so we can finally have our cake and eat it too.
Yay!
But like, I've pitched, like, we should release just a bonus. So, like, we release the episode on Monday, and then April Fool's Day is that Friday. And I'm like, let's just do a fun little bonus prank episode on release on that Friday. Like, no, let's just do it the following Monday. I'm like, no, but then there's no point. Like, it's
Richard,
just
you know what?
any other day of the year.
Now that you're editing the podcast, we can do as many bonus episodes as you'd like.
No, I don't want to because I'm editing it. I still think we should have done the one that I suggested. But, hey.
Which one's that?
Not telling.
Yeah, I guess we'll never know.
Because we might do it one day.
Yeah. We've had dozens of April Fool's ideas over the years, but none of them ever happened.
None of them are good.
That's true.
Yeah.
One of the ones I remembered was I wanted to do a film franchise Fortnights on the Shazam trilogy, like the Sinbad Mandela effect, and just try and like stand a whole episode up as if they were real movies. And just see what it's like to try and improvise your way through, like, just knowing franchise tropes. You know,
I nixed that one because I was like, I don't think I'd be very good at it. Anyway, Leprechaun 3 came out only a year later. Directed by Brian Trenchard Smith, who also directed the fourth entry. This one has an alternate title as well, although it's just Leprechaun 3 in Vegas. Because, they go to Vegas in this one.
That's what it should have been called, I think. So this one, I think this is the best one. First straight to DVD one.
Yeah.
I thought this was the best one.
Warwick Davis agrees with you.
Yes! I reckon I would hate Warwick Davis. I reckon we wouldn't get along at all.
Really?
In life. Yeah.
Why?
Based off Life's Too Short, that show.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I really like this one. So this one is about...
You really liked this one?
Yeah, I did.
Is
I
that
gave it
Stockholm
3
Syndrome
stars.
talking? Yeah. Same as you gave the first two.
So the main thing, there's a bunch of different shit that's going on, and it's more or less just a bunch of converging storylines happening in a casino where the leprechaun's involved. But one really cool thing in it is that one of the leprechaun's gold coins is like floating around the characters, like one will steal it off the other, and when you get this gold coin, you are entitled to a wish. And I just thought, like, that's a great story engine for a horror movie. Like, this one magic thing that'll give you a wish, and there's a monkey paws situation, so it's not always good. The main character is like this dude that's just like, he picks up a hitchhiker going to Vegas, and that's how he ends up at the casino. He follows her in, and like, he gets bit by the leprechaun and starts turning into a leprechaun, like werewolf rules, throughout the film. And he starts speaking in Limerick and shit. There's a gross dirty casino CEO who, one of his wishes is that the hot girl who's the hitchhiker from earlier, that she'll like fall for him or whatever, and then all of a sudden she's like hypnotized and tries to have sex with him before the spell is broken or whatever, and then she's like, what the fuck am I doing here? And then he dies because he's watching porn, and then the leprechaun makes the porn actress come out of the screen and like kill him.
Yeah.
And then there's also like this other woman who works at like the blackjack table, and her wish is that she can be young and hot again. And so then she transforms, and she's a very mid-90s interpretation of being very hot. But then her like lip filler and her butt and her boobs just keep growing, and she explodes. Great stuff, right? Yeah. This is the fun campy deaths that I was expecting to be in the first one. I didn't even remember a single death in the first film.
What's the one where the guy thinks he's feeling boobs, but he's actually putting his face into a lawnmower?
That's the second one. That was great.
That was great. What a horrifying way to go.
Yeah. So, like, this one's just, I don't know. There's a magician who wishes to be the best magician in the world, and then the leprechaun saws him in half in the saw in half box, but he's actually just gets sawed in half. Great, awesome stuff. And I can't recall really any plot. It's just
a series of fun tableaus. Yeah. One thing that struck me while watching this one is that, like, I can't believe Goes to Vegas isn't a more common sequel trope.
Sure. It is a sequel trope, but not a common one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what other Goes to Vegas ones have we had?
The Flintstones prequel.
Yes.
Viva Rock Vegas.
Yeah. It's a good shout.
Boy, does rock kind of rhyme with Lass. Yeah. They're really letting Vegas doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah. If you took Vegas out of it, I wouldn't know what you were talking about. What do you think this one has on Rotten Tomatoes?
0%, right?
Yeah, it does have 0%.
I looked this up because I genuinely had a naive moment where I was like, are the sequels rated better than the first one? Because they are better. And then I looked it up and was like, oh no, actually literally no one else but me apparently likes this film.
And Warwick Davis.
According to the score. Yeah, true.
He said I think it tapped into the potential of bringing a comedic element to it all. Brian Trenchard Smith, who directed that one, is an incredible director. He manages to get so much out of so little money, and that was what was great. That was what was great about working with him. He really got the humor. It was
great. It is funny. It's funny characters in this one. Interesting and funny characters in this one.
There was at one point the second film was called Bride of Leprechaun.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That's what it should have been called.
Yeah, or Bride of the Leprechaun.
Should have been Leprechaun, Bride of Leprechaun, Leprechaun in Vegas, or Goes to Vegas, and Leprechaun in Space. These are all better titles than what we actually got.
Yeah. Or like Leprechaun Bets It All.
Leprechaun on Red.
But so when the second film was originally called Leprechaun, Bride of the Leprechaun, this one was going to be called Trial of the Leprechaun, and it seems like the only thing really held over from it was this idea of like turning into Leprechaun, because I think they're originally going to do them 2 and 3 back to back, and to save money on the third one, they were going to have like Warwick Davis wouldn't be in it that much, and he'd be like inhabiting other people, and so like people would become leprechauns and all kind of like a Jason Goes to Hell sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, they ended up getting ditched, and then their screenwriter David Dubose was he had a spec script given to the production company, and then he was given the opportunity to pitch for Leprechaun 3. He hadn't seen the previous 2 films, but he just got told Leprechaun in Las Vegas, go. And then this is what he pitched. Yeah.
That's the style. Like, you don't need to see the other 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
No, I thought this one was fun.
yeah, it was filmed non-union to save money. Very cool at the moment.
That's
Yeah.
why there's like no recognizable actors in it beyond Warwick Davis.
Yeah, Mitch tells Tammy that she's fired and will never get a job in show business again. Weird coincidence, Lee Armstrong, who played Tammy, never acted again after this film.
Wow. Because she didn't join the union.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, that was just a bit of dumb IMDb trivia for you. Hope you enjoyed that at home.
Thank you so much. Been a while. Yeah. Hey, we've somewhat ditched this segment that we thought was
Every
a genius segment.
time the segment comes up, you say we shouldn't do it anymore, and then I don't do it, and you bring it up.
Well, I'm just curious, French-wise, because these don't seem like the first one is not a movie that looks like it would have made a lot of money, which is usually the reason why we round back
I think
to
the thing is that
7 sequels.
Yeah. That more importantly, that it was made for very little money, rather than that it made a lot of money.
And how much of the like audience of these films do you think Warwick Davis is bringing over? Because
yeah, big Willow fans.
Yeah, in 1993, he was like niche famous at best. Surely, like he's not even.
I mean, this is pre-Life
world
Too
famous
Short.
now. Yeah. I don't know, like, it's just, yeah. Is there a bunch of, like, Lucasfilm nerds that really like the Leprechaun films and that, like, kept it afloat?
Let us know at home.
Yeah. I was hoping you had an answer to this magic question.
Oh, are there Lucasfilm fans out there that love Warwick Davis?
Yeah.
You hope that I would just have that information at hand.
I think it's probably yes. There probably are.
Okay, well, sounds like you had your own answer there. So, yeah, a year later, same director, Brian Trenchard Smith. What do you think Leprechaun 4 in Space has on Rotten Tomatoes?
17%.
Yes.
That's a guess.
I'm sure it was. So, at one of our only goes to space franchises that actually has the subtitle in space.
This goes back further than should Joe watch Skull Island. Skull Island. Like, this is a episode 1 reference. I think.
Believe it's episode 2 reference.
Right, Ace Ventura in
Space
Space.
Ventura.
Space Ventura. So I have long time, like going back into high school, been fascinated by the idea of like something in space as a sequel title, and you see it in concept a lot more than you see it in title, to the point where like part of me wonders, did I just make up this trope, so and so in space? Like, because you don't see it a lot. We've had in space sequels. You've got Jason X.
Jason X is the most prominent. Yeah, Hellraiser Bloodline.
Yep. And
Critters
now
4.
Leprechaun. Yeah, there you go. Then Leprechaun 4 in space. I wish it was just Leprechaun in space. Just ditch the numbers.
Yeah.
Especially because all of these films are so self-contained. They don't need the numerical delineation.
It is weird. Like, you look at the title treatment and it's like Leprechaun, and then slightly above the N is the 4, and then in space is below that. So you read it as like Leprechaun 4 and a Leprechaun in space, and then there's just like a 4 kind of in the background off to the side that's like, it's the 4th one.
Yeah, yeah.
One small step for man, one giant leap of terror. That's the tagline.
They're not going to go one small step for one small man?
Maybe he didn't want to be referred to as the small man.
He's playing a leprechaun.
Yeah.
Surely that's more humiliating.
So what's this one about?
All right, well, let's just radically depart from what the other three have sort of felt like.
Yeah.
This one just goes whole hog. It's practically a different franchise. It's set in on this space station in the future. They go to a planet to try and save an alien princess.
Because he wants to marry her.
The leprechaun wants to marry her, and the leprechaun is just an alien in this movie. I think
He's never called a leprechaun. He's like an alien or the monster or whatever.
Which is is that the lore? Because we've seen other lore in Leprechaun 2. We get a flashback to ancient Ireland,
1,000 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, where he was there then. So I don't know what the deal is, but basically the leprechaun gets on this ship and starts killing everyone, and they all have to bandy together to try and kill the leprechaun. This is a pretty a lot of the stuff in this movie is very fun. It looks great. The captain or the drill sergeant basically has got a quarter of his skull is just this chrome dome.
Yeah.
And things like that. One of the bad guy is this German dude who's part cyborg, and
It's
then
very Wild West.
yeah, and he gets turned into a spider monster by the end. It's all very fun stuff. I think the funniest thing about this movie is how blatant the main guy and main woman are just stripped of their clothing throughout the third act. And it would be sexist if it was only the woman, but it happens to the guy as well. And I was like, do I have nothing wrong with this? The woman starts losing your clothing and you're like, oh, here we go. 1990s slasher film. And then the guy gets his shirt ripped off and he's got chiseled abs. And I was like, maybe this is okay then. The funniest part was she's crawling through a vent and one of the monstrous tendrils or whatever just dips down and just tears her pants off like stripper pants. It's so blatant. It would be so hard in real life for pants to come off that way.
Yeah. There is one egregious nudity scene.
Oh my god, it's the most egregious nudity I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, so what happened?
I take it back, it is offensive. It is written by a man, sexist, misogynist.
The studio forced them. They you have to come. You have to have boobs in the film. So the writer decided to come up with the most absurd reason for the nudity, and I thought it was pretty funny that it's the Princess Zarina just reveals her breasts to this group of people and is look. And they're like, oh, no. And then it's revealed that, when a member of the royal family of that planet exposes their breast, it's a death sentence to those standing in front of her. And I was knowing now that it's you have to put a nudity scene, it's just the most ridiculous fucking thing. It's not it is sexual, but it's not it's funny.
They're not trying to even pass it off as a reasonable.
Yeah. They're really hanging a lampshade on it. Too. Yeah.
But the leprechaun gets turned into a giant at the end of this, and now there's a giant leprechaun.
Yeah. And then
that feels like something else that was in the brainstorming session early on that managed to make its way all the way to the end of a completely different movie.
Yeah.
They start with Leprechaun 4.
Weird.
Yeah, it's very green screen. They start with Leprechaun 4 on a whiteboard, and someone's like, he gets giant, and they're like, great. And then they come up with the whole space story, and they're like, how do we finish it? And they're like, what if we go back to that idea? Okay, let's see, gets giant.
Yeah, apparently there was the film originally was just a straight spoof of Apollo 13.
Did this come out after Apollo 13?
A year later, yeah.
Wow, it feels like it came out 20 years before. You know what I mean? The quality of production of this feels 20 years behind Apollo.
Yeah, so the promo art for Apollo 13 came out, and then an executive at Trimark was like, oh my god, what if the Leprechaun was on here instead of Tom Hanks? And then that's what spawned the in-space thing for the movie.
I think as well, there's something a little bit weird about parodying a movie that's based on just a really full-on true story.
Yeah, it is. And it's funny, this film is crazy. but it's also kind of like it's very like by the numbers crazy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it feels very restrained in its wildness.
Yeah. But it is nuts.
Feels like it is familiar with all of the wonderful tropes of the In Space sequel, which this wouldn't have even been the last one. Does this predate Jason X?
It does, yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Jason X feels like it's the like formula refined of the In Space sequel to a horror movie franchise. But it feels very like in on the joke in a way that makes it like less cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
This came out the same year as Hellraiser Bloodline.
I remember nothing about Hellraiser Bloodline.
Hellraiser Bloodline is like, they call it like an in-space sequel, but it's a prequel, because remember it has Adam Scott in it.
It has Adam Scott, that's all I remember.
In the prequel part. And then, so it's not like... Yeah, it's not, like the same kind of in-space sequel as this. This is like, this and Jason X are like the purest forms of it, I would say.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
No.
I'd say Jason X, I prefer Jason X so much to Leprechaun
I love Jason X. I prefer Jason X to Friday the 13th.
Yeah, kind of. I guess so. I just think that, like, this was like... I just felt tired watching it. And maybe it's because I was on my third day of COVID isolation. But I was just tired watching this one. And I kind of... I liked where the series was going. And to then ditch it all and do like a almost Starship Troopers-esque like space movie was like... This is so different. And just weird that, like, the leprechaun being a leprechaun isn't incorporated into the plot at all. Like, that feels like the biggest sin of the movie is, like, this should be more a leprechaun based.
How would you include some of the classic? The USS Clover would be the name of the ship. That's
I think that I don't think the leprechaun should be an alien. I think it should be about the leprechaun ends up on a spaceship. Like 1,000 years ago, he's trapped in whatever, and then that whatever ends up on a space, like it's like a crate or whatever, and that crate
like a
ends
time
up on
capsule.
a spaceship. Yeah.
They're taking North Dakota to a new planet.
Yeah, they're taking North Dakota to a new planet.
Of all the states to take.
Yeah. North Dakota, but North is in italics now.
Yeah. Oh, well, apparently Matthew Perry had a heart attack in a jacuzzi, apparently, and drowned.
Oh my god! So he had a heart attack?
Yeah.
God, I was picturing, like, in the ocean.
Like a Jeff Buckley situation.
Who's that?
The singer famously did a cover of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah and drowned.
Drowned because he did the cover, or? I reckon let's ask Leonard Cohen if he had anything to do with it.
Yeah. Also, there was like a Australian Prime Minister who just disappeared.
Yeah, Harold Holt.
Yeah.
Just walked into the ocean, and now there's a swimming pool named after him.
Yeah.
In Australia.
So, Leprechaun took a little bit of a break after going to space, as a lot of us would. And
well, at the end of the movie, he's let out the airlock where he explodes, so I'm not surprised he
and then
took
his
a break.
dismembered hand pulls the finger at them, which apparently was a reflection of the director's view of the absurd nature of direct-to-video sequels, according to an IMDb trivia.
Okay. And interesting as well, isn't it? Because I guess this is a Jason X situation where this must be the most future set Leprechaun film.
So yeah, Leprechaun went to the Hood in 2000. Interestingly, and I will probably just talk about this in conjunction with Leprechaun Back to the Hood. Interestingly,
can you spell that for me? Can you spell maybe the first word you learned to spell when you were a kid?
The
is spelt with an A in this.
It's
sort of like
only in the sequel.
Yeah.
In Leprechaun in the Hood, it's just THE, and then the second one is Back to the number 2, THA Hood.
I wonder why.
Yeah, maybe like it's almost like after making the first one, it was like getting permission from their black friends to be like, we're gonna make the second one a little bit more hood.
This movie has getting permission from their black friends vibes to it.
Yeah.
Because who's the director?
Rob Spera directed the first one. Stephen Aram Louis.
Cut this out if it's wrong. Those sound like white people names to me. Those are the most white name sounding directors.
Yeah, they are white.
Correct, AJ.
So what is Leprechaun in the Hood from 2000 about?
So Leprechaun in the Hood is, I'm trying to remember which one's which.
Ice-T is in the first one.
Okay, so it's the Ice-T one.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is about a trio of young rappers who have visions of like creating a market for like positive vibes rap. Like they don't want to rap about nasty things. And so they pitch it to Ice-T's character, who we see in a prologue, had a run-in with the Leprechaun once where he managed to steal his magic flute, which has given him fame and fortune as a music producer. And Ice-T basically tells these guys, hey, you guys aren't rapping about beating up your girlfriends, so I don't want to sign you. He literally cites that as something he doesn't like about their music, that it's not about smacking your bitches up. Awful stuff. Have we seen Ice-T in film franchise Fortnights before?
That's a good question. You keep. I'll search and you keep talking.
So they decide to get revenge on him by breaking into his house and like stealing all his stuff. And one of the things they steal is the mysterious gold medallion that's around a stone leprechaun's neck. And this is what turned him into stone. So they take that, Leprechaun comes back to life, and it all ends up being this big fight to like they steal the flute, which gives them like success in the music industry, while Ice-T's chasing them, the Leprechaun's chasing them, until a bunch of them die. There's a when did this movie come out? 2000. So there's a very problematic portrayal of what we'd now describe as a trans woman as one of the characters in this film. Which is already the way this character is depicted as like, okay, this is pretty damning.
Yeah.
And then that character runs in with the Leprechaun, and it was like, this really is the deciding factor of what side of history this movie's on, is how the Leprechaun interacts with the trans woman, right? Because I was thinking, watching it, I was like, you could, and it would be by accident, it wouldn't be through good faith, but it would be by accident that like the trans woman and the Leprechaun like get along. Like I could
Team
see
up.
that. Yeah, team up or something like that. But no, the Leprechaun just kills her. The Leprechaun then also kills a bunch of the main characters, including the main characters who, again, dress up as women at the end because they know that the Leprechaun is a pervert and they think they can seduce him into giving the magic flute back. Yeah, they could white chicks him. And he's busting out. He's got like no game. He's busting out the worst rhymes he's got in the bank. Yeah, he's just like, he makes references about them giving him head or something, and it doesn't even rhyme. But anyway, they don't even. I think one of the characters survives, and the rest get killed by the Leprechaun. And then it ends with the Leprechaun, ladies and gentlemen, doing a rap.
That's right.
And a scene which feels inevitable when you've got a movie called Leprechaun in the Hood.
Yeah.
But we've talked about how like piss poor the rhyme schemes are in the movie so far. This is the this loses a star off its rating bad.
Yeah.
Like this is like such a poorly made, poorly produced rap. I thought it was like holy shit bad. Holy shit. It makes you go holy shit how bad it is. And I think I think there's one worse than this movie, but it's worse for a different reason.
Yeah.
That being Origins. But this was like, after 4 movies in a row, which I'd begrudgingly been like, these are all right at least. This one was like, okay, this is pretty fucking bad.
So, from what I can see, we haven't seen Ice-T before. He does appear, looking at his filmography, he appears in a movie called Frankenpenis, which the link to on Wikipedia was purple, meaning I've looked at it before. And I was like, what the hell? I don't remember looking at a movie called Frankenpenis.
Much like the head of the titular Frankenpenis.
The thing is, you click on it, and it takes you to the Wikipedia page for John and Lorena Bobbitt.
Oh, God.
Who?
Oh, my God. This
Yeah.
would have been the porno he made after getting his dick reattached.
What he appears as himself? Ice-T does?
Yeah. Oh, Ice-T does. I thought you meant John Bobbitt did.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. He appeared in the adult film John Wayne Bobbitt Uncut.
Oh god,
And
I
then,
don't want to get into
Frank
this.
and Penis. Frank and Penis. He also, that was. And Ice-T is in it apparently.
Wow. Sorry for that. Sorry for being responsible for that tangent, everyone.
Yeah, that's crazy. Oh,
what
good
did
on
you
him.
think of Leprechaun in the Hood?
It's pretty fucking bad. Like, yeah, not a fan. The idea. So Brian Treachard Smith was, who directed the last two, was asked about coming back for this one. His pitch was that it would have had the Leprechaun finding his way into the White House, and it would have seen the little imp infiltrating an oafish but well-meaning first family as a political satire of the Clinton era, as that was the director's favorite president. However, the studio tried
You did a satire of your favorite president.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you do one of your least favorite president? What the hell?
Yeah. Trimark turned it down, feeling it was too out there.
You just went to space, Trimark.
Yeah.
Get a grip. Get a fucking grip. I think that sounds a lot better than what we got.
Yeah, it's
with
fun.
Leprechaun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The little imp.
Yeah.
Oafish
Guy.
but well-meaning first family. Yeah, no, this is... Yeah. Did you think this is, like, offensively bad?
Look.
Because time's been kind to it a little bit. More so Back to the Hood, I think. But people are like that it's like a modern-day blaxploitation film. But then
Yeah,
I
guess
think
so.
that it was like... The blaxploitation films of the time, like the 70s, like talking about like Dolomite and those kind of films, it's more like that was like the black people involved were more in on the joke, it seemed.
That's what I was going to say, is that like it's as blaxploitation as a film directed by white people could be.
Yeah.
One thing I'll give is every scene in both of these movies, it was like, is Warwick Davis going to say the N-word?
Yeah.
Like, both of these movies feels like it's a ticking clock until that decision was made. And to their credit, they kind of make a joke out of what you're expecting that to be in the second and Back to the Hood, where he says it's established. Do we want to talk about this now? Or are we still talking about in the Hood? And Back to the Hood, there's this weird joke where the characters are like, no one says the N-word anymore. They say ninjas. You say, what's up, my ninjas?
Yeah.
And that carries throughout the whole film. And then at one point, the Leprechaun's like, what's up, my ninjas? And I was like, fuck, I hate that I like that. I hate that this joke that felt like it was looming over these two movies ended up being something I thought was pretty charming.
Yeah, there's also the line, it's the only like one of his rhymes that I can remember when he's like, a friend with weed is a friend indeed, but a friend with gold is best, I'm told.
That's a good rhyme.
Yeah.
Some of his best work is in Leprechaun in the Hood and Back to the Hood.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think of his performance generally, like, other than the accent?
I think it's cool to have to see a version of like the Pennywise, almost Robin Williams genie being like a horror. I mean, I guess that's Freddy Krueger. I guess it all comes
Pennywise.
back to what did I say?
You said, like, to see that kind of, like, Pennywise or Ron Williams genie be used as a horror villain. One of your examples was a horror villain.
An early version
right.
of it. But I guess it just comes back to Freddy Krueger, because he was using dream magic all the time. But yeah, I don't know, like, it's fine. I think that rap at the end of this is a funny movie to ask what I thought of his performance in, because that rap is like literally one of the worst things I've ever seen, and Warwick Davis should live in shame because he performed that, I think.
Wow. Not because of Life's Too Short.
Also very bad. Have you seen all of Life's Too Short?
I know. I watched the like viral clips of like Johnny Depp and Liam Neeson, but
yeah,
what
that's the only thing worth watching about it.
Yeah, what's so unlikable about it?
I just think I think that the Gervais sphere, right, and all the people who make stuff with him, they got too obsessed with making unlikable protagonists in their comedies, and it got in the way of making something a bit different. But like, I think Hello Ladies is worse than Life's Too Short. That was Stephen Merchant's solo one where he just plays like a bad person who can't get laid, and it's like, what, am I supposed to feel sorry for him? He's the worst character in the show. And this is similar, where it's like, I just think there's a version of Life's Too Short where Warwick Davis is the only nice character in the show. And I think that would be better than him also being an asshole.
Like I haven't watched Afterlife, but the Netflix show he did, but Ricky Gervais did. But like, clips of it pop up on my TikTok from time to time, and it seems like the entire show, and apparently people say it's quite good, but like, it seems like the entire show is just Ricky Gervais writing arguments for him to win.
Yeah. I mean, that's what all of his stuff feels like, I would say. That's what Derek feels. He's just not the one doing the arguing in Derek.
Yeah, I haven't seen really any of Derek. I love
Derek. Woof! That's got to be a... don't want to revisit the Ricky Gervais plays like an autistic person TV show in 2022, 2023, do we? I liked Extras, but even that, rewatching it, like, his character's so much more of an asshole than the show needs him to be. I don't know. That's my problem with, like, sort of that wave of British comedy, is like, I actually quite enjoy liking my protagonists in comedies. I don't really...
liberals. I actually enjoy liking my protagonists.
Yeah, and it's just like a horrible, I don't know. He's just, Life's Too Short, he should have been a good guy and everyone hates him. Like, I think that still taps into that, like, self-deprecating British comedy without, where he can still be like someone you back, someone you side with.
Yeah. Did you notice in Leprechaun in the Hood that the film crew used extreme long shots and no camera angles? That was due to the film's low budget.
No camera angles, huh? It's just a black screen. Everything in the film is just not even a black screen, the absence of vision. Yeah. Because there's no camera angles in it.
This is the opposite of The Batman that came out last year, which had, as the person behind me so rightly put, too much cinematography.
So Leprechaun back to the Hood, right?
Yeah, so they've been to the Hood. They go back to the Hood. And apparently... I read this sentence that was like, due to the negative reception of In the Hood, they decided to do a direct sequel to it. It's okay. Like, it seems like there was an executive that was like, no, him going to the Hood is a good idea. We're going to do it again.
And there's a moment in it where I was just like, did they expect this to do well? And if it did, would this just be what the Leprechaun franchise becomes?
I mean, they left it here, so I kind of think, yeah, that's what it was. Like I said at the start, like, this is the enduring legacy of the Leprechaun franchise, is that there's a Leprechaun in the Hood and back to the Hood. Like, these are the kind of movies that people think they can, like, teach you about, but it's like, no, I've known about Leprechaun Back to the Hood for like 15 years.
Yeah, I just haven't seen it till now.
Yeah.
I think, so what's this one about? It's about, like, a crew of people. One of them's like a drug dealer that no one trusts. And they discover the Leprechaun's gold and just, like, flitter it away on just, like, extravagance and stuff. And then the Leprechaun comes after them. The main thing I remember is there's a scene where one of the characters drops their phone and the Leprechaun picks it up and he's like, hello? And there's a woman on the other end. She's like, who am I talking to? And he's like, oh, this is the Leprechaun. She's like, oh yeah, how tall? She starts asking, like, what do you look like? Are you handsome? And he's like, oh, I like to think so. And he's not. He's a disgusting little monster.
Well, the beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
And then he's like, describes like what he's like, and then he ends with explaining how tall he is. And then the phone, they hang up, and he's like, hello? And Richard, that has happened to me.
Wow.
I have told women...
I've told women what a disgusting little freak I am, and they've been fine with it.
No, I hid that part. It was when I told them how tall I was that they just stopped talking to me.
Do you have any noteworthy stories where that has happened?
No, just really sad ones.
Oh, yeah, nice. Do you want to share? Is this just on dating apps or like...
Well, I think if I met anyone in real life who didn't want to go out with me because I'm too short, they would have just been very clearly not interested in me.
Right.
So I wouldn't have got to the point where I discovered that was the reason why.
Yeah.
Excellent stuff.
Excellent stuff.
Yeah, so that was the main thing I remembered from this movie. I don't even remember how this movie ends. I think I was like long gone by the time this movie ended. Do you remember how it ends?
Yeah, they encase him in concrete.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they encase him in concrete. A surefire way to get rid of the leprechaun.
Yeah. Would that work on you, do you reckon?
If I got encased in concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you implying I'm a leprechaun? Is that where this is going?
I mean,
AJ, I'm just adding facts together. I'm just noticing you said that you were obsessed with them. You found a bunch of 4-leaf clovers when you were younger.
Yeah.
You
flawlessly did that water daughter rhyme.
Yeah, I tried to do a bad rhyme and couldn't because I'm just that good of a wordsmith.
Yeah. Are you a leprechaun, AJ?
I don't think I'm not.
Have you ever dressed as one?
No.
That feels like something you should do.
You're lying to me, AJ.
Yeah, I think you should.
Okay, I will. I will now.
Oh my god, he's gone and got changed. We're back. AJ is dressed as a leprechaun. He's thrown together some green stuff from his room. He appears to have been drinking green paint. Did you know the paint grandpa meme?
The what?
The paint grandpa.
No.
It's like my grandpa drank a bunch of paint thinking it was something else, and it's just this photo of the guy with like paint around his mouth, and he looks so confused.
Paint
grandpa.
Oh my god, I typed in PSINT GTSNFBS because I was just a letter off for every letter. Oh yeah, man, this is great. This is good stuff.
This is a vintage paint grandpa.
This is good stuff. There's Halloween costumes on it.
Yeah, I saw someone that dressed up as paint grandpa to a party just recently, and no one got it.
I had a dream this morning as I was like dozing as I was waking up that my Halloween costume was I was dressed as Dipsy the Teletubby, but in the giant suit that David Byrne wears in Talking Heads.
So you're Dipsy, and then you have that suit over top of that.
On, yeah. And I was like, in my dream, it felt really clever, and then I woke up and I was like, "There's no portmanteau or rhyme that works there." It's like I get it. You're like if one of the Teletubbies was called like something that rhymed with a Talking Heads.
Well, surely you'd be able to come up with something.
Well, an impeccable wordsmith such as myself, you would think so, but not in this case.
Yeah. All right. So we've been to the hood. We've been back to the hood, and now it's time to go back.
Where is this guy from?
Yeah. Let's find out the origins of this little guy. So yeah, in 2014, WWE Studios brought us Leprechaun Origins, directed by Zach Lipovsky. And I know you're wondering...
Where would this podcast be without WWE Studios making random sequels years later?
Yeah, so the reason it's WWE Studios is that the wrestler Hornswoggle appears as the Leprechaun, but as AJ, when you recount the plot, you can probably inform us that he looks a little different.
Well, for starters, appears as the Leprechaun is like quite the claim in a movie where you don't really see the Leprechaun.
Yeah.
This is I reckon, one of the worst reboots we've seen.
Absolutely, easily.
So imagine, if you will, people, you've seen 6 movies where Warwick Davis plays this cheeky little imp, this little leprechaun.
Little guy.
And, like him or not, he is the reason why the series has gone for that long.
Absolutely.
Because he is like, it's a character. It's a character with characterization, and we more or less enjoy seeing that over and over again. This movie dares to ask, what if the Leprechaun wasn't interesting? Because this is a reboot where the Leprechaun does not speak, you barely see it, and it has sort of an animalistic It's like a little zombie. It's like a 28 Days Later
It's
zombie.
inspired by subterranean mole rats, apparently.
Okay. So, the only thing it has over the others is that it's set in Ireland. The other ones aren't set in Ireland. This one's set in Ireland where no Irish people exist. It's all just Americans doing Irish accents. And it's basically about a bunch of American backpackers who are lured into a house to stay in for the night by an Irish man in a pub. And the whole thing is like they're cursed with this little leprechaun that they need to continuously feed. So all the teenagers, well, they're not teenagers, but all the characters, and you get this cast of characters, right? And you can tell based on how they look the order in which they're going to get killed off. Like there's the smart girl who's like obviously she's going to be the last one left alive, and then there's like this dude who was in like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and just the look of him is like, this is what an actor looks like when he's going to die in a horror movie. And so yeah, they just get picked off one by one by this. A lot of the Leprechaun stuff is done from like the point of view of the Leprechaun, where it has like predator vision. And yeah, it's just really boring, and nothing happens in it.
I was very surprised because also like you get WWE studios to do it, you get a wrestler to play the Leprechaun, and it's like, oh, he's going to be, doing some of that like bravado sort of wrestler kind of stuff. That like a wrestler playing Leprechaun is not inherently a bad idea, but it's like, why is he doing this like dark, serious interpretation of it? Apparently, so director Zach Lipovsky despised the original movies, and you can tell. He says he wanted to make a scarier Leprechaun movie that was more grounded in reality. Ironically, this is the movie that fans considered the worst of the franchise for being too serious, with no charm or humor. And Dylan Postel, who's Hornswoggle, who plays the Leprechaun, said that he'd never seen any of the previous ones, which the director told him good. And he has since chosen not to view any, as he wanted his performance to be his own creation without the influence of prior films. He said that he thought he'd never seen the other films, but he thought his version was better and felt the audience would walk out saying, what was the name of that other guy that nobody cares about who played the old one? Nobody cares.
It's funny, if you guys listening to this haven't seen Leprechaun Origins, I cannot state enough how little the Leprechaun appears in the film.
Well, he appears to be quite little in most of the films.
Very good. I'm on your side here, Richard.
I'm not making fun of you.
Don't combat my point.
You set me up for a joke, and as a fellow wordsmith, AJ, I would have thought that as a little guy who's a wordsmith, you would be.
I'm just saying that it's funny to hear the actor like espouse so much of his process for a movie in which he never has an in-focus shot in it.
Yeah.
And if he is in it, he's caked in makeup and has no discernible personality. It's not a character. It's just a force of nature. And it's so boring, and such a boring, dark, gritty interpretation of the idea of a leprechaun. It borderline feels like this is not that we shouldn't consider.
This is like, and this is the thing of, I don't like this franchise, but this makes me so mad.
Yeah, the only thing that connects it to the other movie is that they reuse the line "fuck you, Lucky Charms" in it.
But it's like, I'm not against the idea of like, make a film about a leprechaun that's like, a dark and gritty retelling. But it's like, because it's already been done, that changes what you can do with the character. But and it on its own is not necessarily a bad idea, but it's just that you've crammed it into this completely different franchise.
But God, I missed the hood.
Yeah.
I think that the thing that frustrated me the most about this, right, is you call the movie Leprechaun Origins. You call it this after 6 movies where you've seen the Leprechaun. The last, by the way, in Back to the Hood, they actually go into his origins. So I was like, I wonder if this is going to hold up. But not only is it not the same Leprechaun, right? It's not Warwick Davis's version of the Leprechaun. So not only are we not getting the origins for the only Leprechaun I would want to see the origins for, the movie itself isn't an origin story for the Leprechaun that appears in it.
Yeah.
It is. They briefly explain where it came from, and it's set in modern day. So it's not even like it's the origins for the Leprechaun in the film. And just call it Leprechaun. Why is it called Leprechaun Origins? It's so weird.
Yeah, like if you had to give it a subtitle, what would you call this one?
Leprechauns, because there's multiple leprechauns at the end.
Nice. This what we haven't said. What do you think this one has on Rotten Tomatoes?
What about Leprechaun Home Country? Back
Nice.
to the mother country. I don't know. Rotten Tomatoes, I reckon we're looking at like 2%.
0%.
Wow.
I can't remember if I said, but In the Hood and Back to the Hood have 33 and 20 respectively.
Yeah, this movie sucks. This was such a.
It
hard
also
thing
has just
to-
that so like gross low budget look to it. That it's like
Yeah.
low budget films look a certain way again. They look like they looked a certain way. Each generation has its own like how they look, and this one it's just like a flat, weird. Usually like
tint.
very blue. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's weird. Yeah, gross movie. Fucking sucks. Like fucking sucks. So it was followed. We got one last film to talk about, and that is Leprechaun Returns, which came out in 2018, which is an ignores all sequels.
Of all the franchises to have an ignores all sequels since the first one sequel,
yeah,
this is such a, and this like predates a lot of the ones we know
well,
of.
it came out the same
as
year as
well.
Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah, so this pretends the superior sequels to the first one. Doesn't it? I think that's what I find funny about it. It's like, oh yeah, because those sequels were so bad that we've got to ignore everything from after the first one. So it's about the daughter of Jennifer Aniston, who, and I'm not trying to. This is just what's in the film, in spite of recent events. Jennifer Aniston's actually died in this one.
Wow.
And her daughter is going to the she's going to the house where the first one took place, which is now like a sorority house.
Yeah.
And she
like,
meets
what
up.
was it? Alpha Upsilon, which is AU, which is gold.
Gold, very nice. So she goes there, and she gets driven there by Ozzy, who returns from the first one. And there she meets 3 other sorority sisters and 2 dudes, one of whom looks like he's like 35. It's so weird. The filmmaker dude, like all these other, the girls look like they're like 18. This dude looks like he's like in his mid-30s. It's crazy. The leprechaun manages to escape. It actually kills Ozzy. It climbs out of his stomach, and then Ozzy appears as a ghost throughout the film because that's part of the internal logic of the series, apparently, that there's ghosts in it. Look, it's just them trying to defeat the leprechaun. The main thing that made this movie better than what I was expecting is the deaths in it are probably the most awesome deaths I've seen in any slasher in a long time.
Yeah.
Like these are pretty great kills.
They're great, and that's why you made. It's one of those things. It's like this is why you made the movie, because you just had some cool ideas for kills.
Yeah, and it's also like I think about this a lot, where it's like horror movie enthusiasts, of which I would say I'm like not really one. Like I enjoy them from the outside. But they're always talking like, oh, the kills have got to be better in the sequels. But there are so many horror movies, like I could name you so few cool kills that I've actually seen. And then this one is like full on. So the best one I think is the first one, which is there's like a fuckboy character who gets killed because the leprechaun like telekinetically detaches the solar panel from the roof and it slides down the roof and like slices him he's in half, but from like so the back of his head and the front of his head are sliced in half, and then both sides you see, and it looks pretty great, and they fall either side, and you get a bird's eye view of like a cross section of a human.
Yeah,
I was like, fuck, That got my attention in this
Yeah.
bullshit, gross movie. Warwick Davis does not return in this, but it is a guy
Lyndon
attempting to...
Porco.
Lyndon Porco.
Mm.
Wow. And his first rhyme in the film is like one of the worst rhymes in the frame. I can't remember what it was, but it was that same
Something
thing
about like
we're
his
talking
daughter and like a glass of water or something.
glass of water, something like that. So we've got that death. We've got another person, a woman dies when a like sprinkler is shoved
in
into
her
her,
mouth.
into her like
Yeah.
she's impaled on the sprinkler, and then it starts going psst, 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 with blood.
Yeah.
Great. What
Great
an
stuff.
idea that
Yeah,
that you make all these contrivances to allow to be possible.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? I thought the worst death was the 35-year-old filmmaker guy. He gets decapitated by his own drone, and it's
That's
just
great.
like the drone is flying toward him, and he's in this wide open space.
Yeah.
And he's got about 10 meters before he's getting killed, and he just backs up into a tree. And I was like, run away, dude. It's a
Yeah.
fucking drone. It's not going to catch you.
You can also like
the li-
grab drones pretty easily.
Yeah. The Leprechaun also rides the drone in this movie, which felt like, yep, this is the 2018
Yeah,
Leprechaun movie, you know? Who else? Another woman like falls on like a trowel, and that's, I think, the last death. But that one's cool because they explode him, but then he turns into a bunch of tiny little leprechauns. And I thought that was fun.
Yeah, and
yeah.
it's like they think they've won, and then she just
Yeah.
fucking dies. But what do you think this one has on Rotten Tomatoes?
30%.
It's 45%, which actually makes it the highest in the franchise.
I'm not angry at that.
Yeah.
I think that
It has much less
there
reviews
is
than some of the earlier ones.
true. I think it's like it's tiring. It's very tiring to get to Leprechaun Returns,
Yeah.
and it's like, God, may he rest in peace after this. May he never return again. But I mean, it doesn't look too. It's quite a flash looking movie, and those deaths make up for a lot of the shortcomings. Like, it's boring and weird, and like, yeah, I thought a lot of the decisions in it were kind of strange, but yeah, whatever. Get a little stoned, watch it with your friends, and it's a fun time, I think. So Jennifer Aniston does not appear in the film,
But you
But
hear
there-
someone doing a bad impression of her voice.
of Rachel from Friends, yeah.
But the thing is that
because
it's like people can do quite good impressions of Jennifer Aniston. And then they didn't pick. I didn't think they picked someone very well. There's someone on SNL does a really good one. They should have just got her.
Yeah. No, so this happens when the Leprechaun's trying to convince the main character to let him get away or whatever.
Yeah.
So he does the mum's voice. It's interesting, isn't it? I feel like I'm thinking about this a lot now that I've been making short films, and you see like no-name actors and things, and I'm a lot more like you can tell, like, for example, the woman and the man who are like fuck buddies in this film. You can really tell that those actors like would have met on the day and now have to like be like super sexy around each other. It's things like that I'm picking up on now. I think.
Because when you're casting stuff like that, you like make them have sex in front of you, don't you?
Well, it's part of the process. Yeah. No, I don't know. It's just like some of the actors in this have pretty good comedic chops, and some of them very much guns for hire kind of thing. One thing that I think that we haven't seen in a while that's a trademark of, I think, a bad film, and especially a bad sequel, is they find the pot of gold that they need to give back to the leprechaun, so he'll leave them alone. But it's mostly empty, and one of the characters revealed that she'd already found it, and she'd like traded it at a cash for gold place to fix up the house and all this sorts of things, and like, this is how we'll get it back or whatever. And I was listening to them explain, and I was like, too complicated. This is... Remember Legally Blonde 3? Legally Blondes, how like the trial that plays at the end of it is the most complicated, backwards, like it's just so annoying to try and wrap your head around. And like, it made me realize that like good movies are actually simpler than bad movies. Like you'd think good movies are more complex, but a lot of the time it's actually not that at all. And this is a situation where I was like, this explanation, just don't put it in the film. It's too complicated.
Yeah. So Warwick Davis, actually was asked to come back, but declined, saying that his view of horror has changed significantly since becoming a father, and he doesn't think he'll appear in any more horror films, but has later said that maybe he will when his son turns 18.
Wait, Harold's his son.
I actually couldn't find that information. But the alternative titles were considered Leprechaun Lives and Leprechaun Renewable Enemy.
Oh, yeah, there's this weird through line in it of them like talking about like being like environmentally conscious, but the movie feels like it's making fun of that. Like it feels pro climate change, this movie. You know what I mean? Because one of the characters is like an environmentalist, and they use this as like just constant fuel, for no pun intended, for jokes about it. And yeah, like there's lines, when the leprechaun gets set on fire at the end, he goes, "And they say there's no global warming." And I was like, who says there's no global warming? First of all, like that, what a funny thing to say, and they say about. And also, like, it's just why, because you're on fire. What a minimal joke that is.
But yeah, so Warwick Davis is not above returning to the franchise necessarily. Apparently, the original director and him have been speaking, and Lionsgate last year said that they were actively seeking out pitches for a new Leprechaun film. And yeah, just this year, apparently the original director Mark Jones and Warwick Davis have discussed new ideas, and he said he's interested in seeing it adapted for television. He said,
that is the next
yeah.
logical step for Leprechaun.
Yeah, Warwick Davis wanted to do a sequel where they go to the Old West and part of the Gold Rush, which is like, yeah, of course that's where you take the character.
Leprechaun Gold Rush.
Yeah, and yeah, just recently in the last couple months, Hollywood Reporter has announced that they're rebooting the franchise with Philippe Vargas directing, but there have been a couple of other things happen throughout history.
What's Philippe Vargas done?
Let's have a look, shall we? It's like a short film called like Milk Teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, doesn't have Wikipedia page.
Very, very good.
Yeah. So, yeah, there was famously we've talked about it on a previous episode, but that there was a crossover with Candyman in development after the box office success of Freddy vs. Jason. But Tony Todd was like, "Fuck no, you're not reducing my character to that bullshit."
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I've only seen the Candyman reboot, but it does not seem like the kind of movie that would gel well with Leprechaun.
Mm. Yeah, and the director of 4 of the Saw movies, Darren Lynn Bousman, expressed interest in doing stuff in 2019. And he wanted to do a more direct sequel and demand that Warwick Davis would come back and wouldn't try to change the tone of the series, and said, you know, that the popcorn flick sort of fun stuff is what appeals. And
all these fucking losers are so, like, adamant about, like, you know, like, oh, we can't betray the tone of the series. And it's like, first of all, one of these movies is set in space. It's a completely different tone to the other ones. Like, what a funny thing to be sacred about, the Leprechaun franchise.
Well, this is in the wake of, like, Origins coming out and being like, look, I'm not going to try to do that, because, you know, if you got to, like, if you're saying, and you're contending with proper Leprechaun fans, you're saying, oh, we're going to redo Leprechaun, people are going to be like, oh. So he said that it would be somewhere between Back to the Hood and the first film would be his tonal frame of reference.
Okay. Again, a lot of tones in that spectrum, to be honest.
And so where does your Continue the Franchise, AJ?
I reckon we'll have come up with the same idea. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
I reckon we've both got the same idea.
Yeah.
I reckon we've seen so many of these horror franchises. They always have the space sequel, or the tonal reboot, or the like return to, or the sequel that ignores previous sequels. We haven't had a meta Leprechaun sequel, right? So I'm thinking it's a movie, and initially I was like, you get Peter Dinklage. But maybe it's actually better with literally Warwick Davis.
Yeah.
Or maybe it isn't. Let me pitch it, and then we can workshop it together. It's about a dwarf actor, a little person actor, who is offered the role of something like Leprechaun, and is like, no, I think Peter Dinklage's character in Alf, how that character's set up, and basically it's about a little person actor who is like really mad at the roles that are offered to little people, that they're always like, you know, little monsters or whatever.
Yeah.
But he wants to be taken more seriously. All of this happens, and then the Leprechaun shows up, and he's got to contend with
Now he's got to
the
fight
fact-
an actual leprechaun for the role.
or something like that. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, so I like the idea of someone being like, I demand to be taken more seriously, and then almost like a Batman Joker dichotomy of the Leprechaun shows up and represents everything he hates about how like his
Representation,
type of person is
yeah.
represented. Yeah. So I think you could do it two ways. You could do it with like you cast Peter Dinklage and maybe Warwick Davis returns as the actual Leprechaun, and
You
still
gotta
like,
do Warwick in a dual role.
well, that's what I'm thinking. Is it actually Warwick Davis plays himself?
Yeah.
And
it's a Life's Too Short
yeah.
movie.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, nice. We got there in the end.
Hmm.
So now it's time to
Wait, what's your continue the franchise?
looking at what other like horror tropes and sequels we've seen, and like I was sort of, because I was like, yeah, Vegas was like such a good goes to the thing, and
Leprechaun Down Under.
Leprechaun
There you
Down
go.
Under's great. Yeah, Leprechaun like a more like a period piecey kind of one, like Leprechaun in like the setting of like Prey, the Predator prequel, you know, take it to like the plains.
Let's go through all the tropes that have been in all the other horror movie franchises that
Yeah,
we've
what else
seen.
have we had? So there's, where does Halloween go? Oh yeah, or like Goes to Manhattan is like an obvious one as well. Like the Muppets.
Yeah, the classic horror franchise, the Muppets.
Yeah, I think there's still a lot of untapped horror sequel tropes that you can still use. And yeah, just keep making them.
Keeps hanging in there, guys.
Because we don't have franchise sequels like 3 or Goes to Space anymore.
No.
Yeah.
What if like I thought I'm kind of mad they used the title Leprechaun Origins, because like the start of the second film, where it's set 1,000 years ago in Ireland, you could do a whole movie there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, now it's time to rank that franchise. So over on letterboxd.com/cultpopshow, we've got a ranking of all 185 franchises we've covered, and people have played along with this at home, and some people have managed to get exactly correct where we have ranked, and let's see if we can trick them this time. So this one is obviously going to be fairly low, I would imagine.
It's frustrating because if it had kept the momentum of the first, let's say 4,
Yeah.
I honestly think it would be like, I don't hate this, so like it would maybe make it into like, I don't know, the 100s.
Yeah.
But I think it just absolutely sinks in that back half. And so let's go to its contemporaries. We've got Hellraiser and Texas Chainsaw Massacre Reboot at 119 and 120. Do we reckon this is better or worse than Hellraiser?
Worse than Hellraiser.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Think about how bad like that second to last Hellraiser movie was.
Yeah, I
feel like
I
that
thought
was
it was more
worse than any of the
enjoyably
Leprechaun.
bad than Origins, though.
But would you say you prefer any of the Hellraiser movies to any of the Leprechaun movies?
No. Maybe.
Yeah, I would say
I would say the first Hellraiser is a better film than any of those.
Maybe. Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
So you think is it better than the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboots? I don't think it is.
Yeah.
I actually think that's better than Hellraiser now that I'm thinking about it. So beneath that, we've got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Little Mermaid, Ace Ventura. I reckon we're looking at something that overall has more quality in it than Ace Ventura.
Yeah. But not as much as The Little Mermaid.
No, it does. It is better than The Little Mermaid, the
You
trilogy,
reckon?
isn't it? Think about how nothing those sequels to The
Yeah,
Little
but how
Mermaid
good
are.
the first one is.
But that's not how you rank a franchise. You don't rank it based off one good movie at the start. That's just a good movie.
I'm putting it between Little Mermaid and Ace Ventura.
Okay. So that puts it at 123.
No, I'm doing it. Okay.
Well, we just want the segment to be over these days, don't we?
So, what else have we got left to do there, AJ?
We have got to decide on what our next franchise is, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to draw a random number, and that'll correspond to a list of franchises. I believe we're heading into what we deem Nice-vember, which is where we've selected a bunch of easier-to-watch franchises, which, to be honest, we really need after 3 weeks and 8 Leprechaun movies. So it's still a pretty big list. It's just shorter franchises and more pleasant watches, I guess. So Richard, if you want to pull up the random number generator, and then I'll tell people where to find us if they liked this episode.
Okey-dokey. I'm just going through a maker because there's a bunch on here because we only look at this once a year, and there's a bunch we've already covered, so I just had to take a few off. But yes, I will pull up the random number generator. You tell us where we can find people.
Alrighty, so if you enjoyed this episode, please consider following Cult Popture on X and Instagram at Cult Popture. You can also join our Discord, which is in the show notes. Come there and tell us why you actually really love Leprechaun Back to the Hood. And if you want to support us financially, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/cultpopture. I'm sorry, everyone loves this. It's at www.patreon.com/cultpopture, where you can get involved and do all sorts of things. You can tell us every second franchise we watch what it should be. You can get exclusive podcasts that sometimes come out on time, and you can be a part of the post-credit scene, which we'll get to after all of this. So, Richard, what is the random number?
45.
And what is the Nice-vember franchise 45, Richard?
All right,
This is
let
exciting.
me just pull up so I can get some facts about it. No, that is just a page for the actual thing, not for the franchise.
Oh, what a clue.
Yeah.
So it's called something that's just a thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. It stars not Ice-T, but another cold actor.
Vanilla Ice?
No.
Coolio?
No.
I don't know. Give me another clue.
It has ice in the name.
And it's not Vanilla Ice.
And-
I don't know any more ice. Ice Cube?
Yes.
Is it Friday?
No.
No.
It's his other
That would
one.
have been fun. What's his other one? Are we there yet?
No.
Ice Cube film franchise. I don't know.
We're going to be covering the Barbershop trilogy and the spin-off Beauty
Oh
Shop.
my god, I've seen these.
I thought you had. That's why I was like, yeah, weird that you didn't guess it. But yeah.
Okay. I don't know if that's the nice I was hoping for in Nice-vember, but I'm sure they'll be pleasant watches. All right, we'll tune in next fortnight for the Barbershop films, guys. And thank you so much for listening. Stay tuned after this music ends for the post-credit scene. And stay lucky. Get fucked, Lucky Charms, or whatever they say at the end of these films. Yeah. All right. How many movies have we covered? How many franchises have we covered that are about a green guy?
Shrek, Teenage Mutant
Leprechaun,
Ninja Turtles.
The Mask, Shrek.
You've done
That's
that.
good
You've
stuff.
counted this before, I'm pretty sure.
I know. I reckon
Yeah.
I have as well.
Yeah.
I come from the land of the Irish Spring. Dublin's the place where I learned my thing. From the Emerald Isle to your place in the hood. I'm the man of green, come to do no good. Lep in the hood, come to do no good. Lep in the hood, come to do no good. Blunt is dope, this place is hype. There's a lassie, she's just my type. I hate your resort so soon to marry. Haven't been late so long, it's tragic. I'm so bad.
Welcome along to the post-credit scene. This is a segment at the end of each episode where if you donate $5 or more over at patreon.com/cultpopture, you get to give us something to talk about in this, the post-credit scene. Richard, who's it from and what is it?
Today's one comes to us from Benjamin Adams, who writes, "What's the franchise that most deserves a video game that doesn't have one?" Leprechaun. It's weird, like,
Leprechaun. Yeah, I genuinely think it's Leprechaun.
but just that, like, the idea. I'm gonna like. I think we shouldn't limit ourselves to like doesn't have one because so many franchises have a video game, but it's like what one deserves like a mainstream sort of thing.
All right, imagine like a Saints Row Grand Theft Auto style city sprawler, like pretty tongue in cheek. Like it's a sandbox kind of game, right? And maybe it's an online thing. Maybe it's a what kind of
RPG?
No, more like what's Dead by Daylight called?
Asymmetrical. Yeah,
asymmetric thing, where you run across the city, and every game you've got one goal, Richard, and that goal is you've got to get a Turbo Man doll.
Nice.
For your child for Christmas, but you're competing with every other player who also has to get a Turbo Man doll. And you can become Turbo Man at the end of it.
I must become Turbo Man.
I must become Turbo Man.
I would say a Grand Theft Auto Saints Row type thing, but your one weapon is the Death Note. And you just go around finding crimes.
You know how fucking tedious it is to write shit on a PlayStation.
Yeah, it's
like that's the whole game.
Yeah.
What about
what's the Phoenix Wright, but it's Legally Blonde.
Yeah. Nice. What about a kissing booth video game, which is what she should have pitched at the end of the kissing booth?
What about just like an esports thing?